our ear and our help, not shame and blame. Denisha Merriweather, American Federation for Children Family Engagement Director, joins me now. Great to see you again. Thank you for being here, Denisha.
Hi, David.
Weingarten is really running away from her role in actually pushing the lockdowns during the pandemic. The White House claims, by the way, that schools reopened in spite of Republicans claiming credit for the reopening when Florida and a lot of charter schools and parochial schools stayed open during the pandemic. It was her schools, the public schools, that stayed closed. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, the audacity of Randy with this letter that she wrote. You know, she did a lot of finger pointing. She pointed her finger at Secretary DeVos and President Trump, and she tried to cloak it over with saying, you know, don't blame teachers. And to be quite frank, the piece that at Wall Street Journal wrote was not talking about teachers. It was talking about her. And
That's
so
right.
For her to try to flip it around to say that, you know, we're blaming teachers, shaming teachers. The letter was not about teachers. It was about her in her cahoots. Quite frankly, like Corey DeAngelis mentioned in his exposés of her on Twitter, her cahooting with the CDC to keep schools closed. And quite frankly, we see now, based on the NAEP scores, that our students suffered tremendously.
Oh, it was a terror, and everybody knew that. I mean, you talk to teachers that were involved in these Zoom lessons, and they knew that their kids weren't learning stuff. I have a friend who's a teacher in New Jersey, a high school teacher in New Jersey. He said 75% of his kids were failing. They weren't actually allowing them to fail, but that they were as a result of these Zoom calls. So people knew it, but it seemed, maybe I'm being too conspiratorial here, but that the unions were using the closing the schools and the possibility of reopening them as leverage to get more money out of these COVID relief plans. Is that too cynical?
No, that's not an overreach at all. They got billions of dollars, and where has those monies gone? Parents were still asked to bring in masks and hand sanitizers and other types of protection equipment when that's what the districts got the money for. And so, yes, that's not an overstatement. They took a bunch of money from the federal government. We don't know where those funds were used. We don't, even today, we have a shortage of teachers. Teachers are overworked. They don't know what to do with the students. They have so many students in their classrooms, and the teachers unions are sitting back with a bunch of money that they were able to get from the federal government. And we see now, like I said before, that the business of schooling is to educate our students, and they've suffered at the hands of Randy Weingarten.
Well, and
they've
it's on a whole,
at the hands of
even
districts.
before the pandemic, we saw scores going down. I mean, the problem seems to be that the political power is in the hands of the unions, not in the hands of the parents, the 100 million parents of kids going to public school. They don't have the power. How do we put the parents back in charge?
We saw in Virginia where parents were frustrated with being babysat over a computer screen, and they spoke out. They spoke up, and they got their governor elected. And that's how we empower more parents. Parents are, quite frankly, frustrated with how the districts are running schools, and they are leaving by the hundreds, by the droves, to go to schools of choice. So how we empower parents is provide them with more funds to get school choice in their hands. Arizona, Doug Ducey, he did a great job with providing education savings account across the entire state for all students, and that's what more states should do in order to empower parents with the freedom that they, quite frankly, deserve.
But you know what, getting back to Randy Weingarten, she's calling that racism. And here's what she said in 2017 when there were efforts by the Trump administration to do what you said. Make no mistake, this use of privatization coupled with disinvestment are only slightly more polite cousins of segregation. Is school choice racist?
As founder of Black Minds Matter, school choice is not racist. School choice gives especially our black and brown students, the freedom to choose the best school for their kids. We see in examples such as Florida, where test scores in reading and math have risen thanks to school choice. And on the flip side, now that we see these NAEP scores, reading scores have gone down twice as much for lower income minority students in the district schools. So which one is racist? A system that allows people to choose freedom and have intellect as a result, or a system that forces them to stay behind a system that does not allow them to be educated?
I wish I could ask Randy Weingarten that specific question. Maybe we could have you on with her some point. Denisha Merriweather, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
David.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.